Thank you so much for joining me today. The price wars have officially begun in the United States. A lot of manufacturers have passed on some pretty crazy price decreases for EVs, especially for SUVs. And then you also have an EV tax credit from the United States that's being passed on to the consumer through your taxes starting this year, starting in 2023. And so today's February 3rd and pricing has been changing like crazy. And I'm going to take the 5 most popular EV SUVs, put them side by side, and just hopefully be a valuable resource for your shopping for these vehicles. And so with magic, we'll slide over and we'll start our little project here. So we're going to look at 5 cars. We're going to look at the Ford Mustang Mach E. We're going to look at the Hyundai Ioniq 5, or Hyundai, depending on what you want to call it. Kia EV6. We're also going to look at the Tesla Model Y. And lastly, we'll look at the Volkswagen ID4. Every single one of these cars is classified as an SUV in the United States, and they're pretty cross-shopped quite often. And I think this is probably the best sampling size for the U.S. consumer to make an educated decision on which SUV is best, especially if they're looking for an electric vehicle. We're going to compare their starting MSRPs, so basically what the manufacturer says the MSRP is for this vehicle. And then we'll also have to keep in mind that there's no dealer markup included in these cars, especially for those for those brands. Tesla doesn't have a dealership network, so they won't have a dealership markup, but every other car probably will when you go shop one at a dealership network. So just keep that in mind when we're thinking about the prices. We're also going to ensure that we have the new IRS classification for the EV tax credit. Literally today, they changed the classification for SUVs, which allowed Tesla and Ford to now take advantage of the EV tax credit up to $80,000 MSRP for their SUVs. Before it was $55,000 for the cap. Now it's $80,000. So this actually has some big changes in what this list looks like. And to keep in mind also that Hyundai and Kia do not qualify for the EV tax credit right now in the United States, because as of right now, they don't have any manufacturing capacity in North America, which is one of the conditions to be able to qualify for the EV tax credit. And we're going to split up the way we're going to look at this into 3 different sort of sections. We're going to look at cars that are labeled as standard range by the manufacturer. We're also going to look at cars that are labeled as extended range, and then the performance variant. So standard range typically has less range, extended has more range, and performance are faster. Okay. And then we're going to look at 5 distinct variables. We're going to look at the range, so what the mileage is from the battery. There's 0 to 60 time in seconds. We're going to do a dollar per mile calculation, as well as a dollar per performance calculation, and also a best bang for your buck, sort of considering all these things together. Dollar per range, for those that are interested, I'm going to calculate very simply by taking the net price after the EV tax credit if they're eligible, and dividing it by the number of miles you get in the battery. And the lower the number is better. It means you're spending less per mile of battery. And then we're going to do the same thing for dollar per performance. We're going to take the net price of the car and divide it by the inverse of the 0 to 60 time, and divide that by 1,000 to give it some sort of sensical score. It's the same thing here. The lower number is better, and this is going to be a good way for you to gauge how much money you're spending per performance you're getting from the car. And then we're also going to have a best bang for your buck metric, which is basically an addition of the dollar per range plus the dollar per performance. And that gives you sort of an overall metric that tells you, relatively speaking, on these specific metrics, which car is your best bang for your buck. So without further ado, let's get started with our cars in the standard range. And I'm going to list these as a list, so it's easy for you to pause the video and really look at each specific car and how they land in these different metrics. So I also have colors set. So Volkswagen is going to be green, Ford's going to be blue, Hyundai is going to be silver, Tesla is going to be kind of a reddish color, and then Kia is also going to be a purple color, if I remember correctly. So these are all sorted by net price after the EV tax credit if they're eligible, always from lowest to highest, so you can see which car is the cheapest. And in this list for standard range, you can see that the Volkswagen ID4 standard range rear-wheel drive comes in at the lowest price of $31,500. In this list, if you want the car with the standard range with the most range, you want to go with the Tesla Model Y standard range. It has 279 miles rated by the EPA, which is what every single one of these mileage is from. It's based on the EPA classification. And then you also have a drivetrain of all-wheel drive. I don't know if you can hear my wife in the background laughing. She's just playing video games. All-wheel drive drivetrain. And then if you want the best performance from a standard range vehicle, you'll want to go again with a Tesla Model Y standard range. It has a 0 to 60 time of 5 seconds. The next best is the Mach E, both select and premium trims. If you wanted the next best range for the Model Y standard range, you probably want something closer to a Ford Mach E select standard range rear-wheel drive or a premium standard range rear-wheel drive as well. Again, if you want the lowest price vehicle, you want the Volkswagen ID4 standard, next by the VW ID4S standard range, and then the Ford Mach E select as far as net price goes. If you want your best bang for your buck for dollar per range, you'll definitely want to go with the Volkswagen ID4. If you want the best buck for performance, you'll want to go with the Ford Mach E Select standard range all-wheel drive. This car has a 5.20 to 60. The next best right there is going to be the Model Y standard range at 217, which is basically neck and neck. And then the next one, you'll probably go with the Ford Mach E Select. And then the overall best bang for your buck in this segment, if you add up the dollar per range and dollar per performance, you'll see that it's a Tesla Model Y at $373 per mile of range plus performance. And then your next bang for your buck, which is right there neck and neck, will be your Ford Mach E Select SR with 247 of range, 5.80 to 60. So those are the standard range models. Again, if you want to pause this and look at this more deeply, you're more than welcome to. But let's go ahead and look at the next section here, which is extended range rear-wheel drive. And before we move forward, if you are enjoying this content, I would love it if you throw me a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this to more people. Thank you very much. I remember to do that. Usually I don't remember to do that. Let's look at the standard range rear-wheel drive. Extended range rear-wheel drive category. It's a really long list, so I think it's best for us to look at it in both rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. So it's we don't have this giant list to sift through. Again, sorted by lowest net price to highest net price. If you want the cheapest one, again, Volkswagen seems to offer the best, and not really the best, but the cheapest vehicles in these two segments so far. So you want the Volkswagen ID4 Pro extended range. This car has 275 miles of range, 7.6 0 to 60 time. Not the quickest car in the world, but it is only 36,500. If you want the best range outright in this segmentation of extended battery rear-wheel drive, so not all-wheel drive, but rear-wheel drive, you'll want the Kia EV6, Ford Mach E Premium, and Kia EV6 GT line. All three of these cars come with a stated range of 310 miles. If you want the best performance, the best 0 to 60 time, you'll want to go with the Ford Mach E Premium extended range rear-wheel drive with a 6.10 to 60. Again, if you want the cheapest vehicle, you want the Volkswagen ID4 Pro. If you want the best bang for your buck in the segmentation, you'll want to go with the Volkswagen ID4 Pro extended range. And then if you also want your best bang for performance, let me make sure I didn't make any boo-boos here. I don't think I did. You'll want to go with the Volkswagen ID4 Pro and the best bang for your buck, period, with the Volkswagen ID4 Pro. It's great. I mean, if you look at the sort of stats you get pretty good mileage, pretty good 0 to 60 time, I guess, if you compare it to any other car. Pretty low price, which is really what enables it to be such a good bang for your buck. And so if you're looking for a long-range car with rear-wheel drive where you're happy with 275 miles of range, the ID4 Pro seems like a pretty good deal, especially compared to these other cars. Now let's go ahead and look at the extended range all-wheel drive segmentation. And again, so the big difference here is that you're not looking at rear-wheel drive, you're looking at all-wheel drive. So all wheels get power. Again, the cheapest car net out the door is going to be the Volkswagen ID4 Pro. Again, without any dealer markups, just to make sure you're aware of this. Followed by the Volkswagen ID4 Pro S, and then the Tesla Model Y long range, 45. But you can see there's a $5,000 gap between the cheapest and VW and a Tesla. If you want the best range outright, you want to go with the Tesla Model Y long range at 330 miles of range. And the next best, you probably want to go with the California Route 1 Mach E version at 312 miles. If you want the best performance outright in this category, you want to go with the Kia EV6 GT line. This is not their GT actual performance. It's like GT line. It's like a pseudo M-Class that BMW has, kind of, if one analogy to think through. You want to go with that car. Again, cheapest, you want to go with the VW ID4. If you want the best bang for your buck for per range, you want to go with the Model Y long range at $139. If you want your best bang for performance, and it looks like I forgot to highlight this as red, but you can see that this is the lowest number. You'll also want to go with the Tesla Model Y long range at $221 per performance. And your best bang for your buck, again, is going to be your Tesla Model Y long range in this category of extended cars, extended vehicle cars, extended range with all-wheel drive. Looks like the best bang for your buck will be your Tesla Model Y long range. Next, we'll look at the performance variations of all these brands, and there's very few. Hyundai and Volkswagen do not have a performance line for their cars, but Tesla, Ford, and Kia do, and Ford really has two in their performance line. If you want to go with the cheapest one, you want to go with a Tesla Model Y Performance. After the tax credit, it will be at $49,490, so under $50,000. If you want the best range outright, you'll also want to go with a Tesla Model Y Performance. If you want the best performance period, you want to go with the Kia EV6 GT, which is a 3.20 to 60. It's actually really impressive. If you want to go with the best dollar per range, you'll again want to go with a Tesla Model Y at $163 per mile of range. If you want to go for your best bang for performance, you'll also want to go for a Tesla Model Y Performance at $173. And then lastly, if you want your best bang for your buck, probably not surprisingly, you want to go with a Tesla Model Y at $337. This is likely due to the fact that Tesla was able to bring the price so low. And I just realized I have a quick typo here, but I'll fix it right in the video. This car should really be here. You see that, 56,000. So it should be the Tesla, the Mach E, then the Kia EV6, then the Mach E. So, but still, there's some pretty clear differences in pricing here, as you can see. But I just wanted to make sure you were aware of this before I catch myself after I post the video. Now, if we want to look at all the models all together, I'm going to go ahead and show you 4 different ways of looking at this list. This is going to be a long list, so definitely feel free to pause at any point. But what I've done is I've taken every single one of the cars we just walked through, and I'm going to sort it by net price period. And then we can go down the list. I'll highlight a few so that you can see what this looks like. So the cheapest cars by far that you can buy in this segment are really 3 Volkswagens: the ID4 Standard, ID4 Pro, and ID4S. You can see the range here. They go between 209 to 275 miles. All the cars are rear-wheel drive. All the cars are some of the slowest ones here, but they're also the cheapest ones. And then 3 of the most expensive are the Kia GT line cars in the GT version, and then the Ford Mach E GT at $57,000, $61,000, and $62,000 respectively. Now, for the last few cuts here, I'm actually going to sort them by the dollar per range, dollar per performance, and the best bang for your buck, so you can see out of all these cars, which one is your best bang for your buck if you really want to go that route. So now sorted by the best bang per range, the best 3 cars are the VW ID4 Pro with 275 miles of range at $133 per range, followed closely by the Tesla Model Y long range at 330 miles at $139 per range. And then lastly, by the Hyundai Ioniq 5 with 303 miles of range at about $150 per mile of range. You can see that the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Tesla Model Y long range both have very similar net pricing, but one of them gets a tax credit and the other one doesn't because it's not manufactured in the U.S. currently, in North America currently. Your worst bang for your buck for range are the Kia EV6 GT line, the Kia EV6 GT, and the Ford Mach E GT at $229, $240, and $299 respectively. But these obviously are performance cars, so you wouldn't expect them to have great performance per mile of range. Next, we'll sort it by dollar per performance. So which one is your best bang for your buck for the type of 0 to 60 or performance that you get? At the top of the list is the Tesla Model Y Performance at $173, 3.50 to 60. Next is the Kia EV6 GT at a 3.2 0 to 60 time at $197 per performance, and Ford Mach E GT at a 0 to 60 with 3.8 seconds at $209. You can see here that the Tesla Model Y has a disproportionate, excuse me, I'm on this column here, 173, 197, 215. There is a pretty significant sort of dollar per performance gap here between these two, but you can see that they have a pretty similar sort of 0 to 60 times. And it's likely due to the fact that there is a pretty big gap in pricing between the Model Y Performance and the GT line specifically from Kia. There's almost a $15,000, if I can't do math, $12,000 difference roughly. And then lastly, what we'll do is we'll sort it by the best bang for your buck, period. So if you want just your best bang for your buck, given these metrics, based on how I'm calculating it, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that's how I'm calculating it. Try to be as scientific as possible. Probably not, but we'll give it a shot. So this is what it looks like. So your best bang for your buck by far, not by far, but your best bang for your buck, if you combine your dollar per range and your dollar per performance, is going to be your Tesla Model Y Performance with 303 miles of range and 3.50 to 60 at a net price of $49,400. There goes my dog. Next, you have the Tesla Model Y Long Range at 330 miles of range, 4.80 to 60, $45,990 net price. And then lastly, you have the Tesla Model Y Standard Range with 279 miles of range, 5 seconds 0 to 60, and a $43,490 net price. I can tell you from experience, this trim is almost impossible to get. It's not very, I don't know, Tesla barely makes it, so it's going to be tough to get if you're interested in that car. But then you can see that there's other vehicles that are not too far away. You got the Mach E Select, the Volkswagen ID4, the Volkswagen ID4 Standard. Volkswagen seems to be offering pretty good, affordable vehicles that are good bang for your buck. So it's something you should consider. You're sorry to do this, but your absolute worst bang for your buck, if this calculation makes any sense, sorry, Hyundai, will be your Hyundai Ioniq 5 limited extended range at 303 miles and 7 seconds 0 to 60, or the Ioniq 5 limited extended range with 265 miles of range, all-wheel drive, 5.20 to 60. Both of these start over $50,000, and that's likely why. And I can tell you, Kia and Hyundai both really are at a disadvantage in this list because they're not eligible for the EV tax credit. So hopefully they are incentivized to move some production to North America so they can qualify. Anyway, so much data. I hope this was helpful. If you found this video informative, I would love it if you throw me a like again so the YouTube algorithm can push this to more people. And then in the comment section, let me know what you thought. You know, which one would you go for? Do you think there's some opportunity for some automakers to lower their pricing? If you were to buy a car, which one would you buy? And then, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member through Patreon or YouTube, you can click on join right below this video, or you can also go in the description and sign up through Patreon on there as well. I have a private Discord where we talk about all kinds of stuff, all kinds of nerdy stuff. So if you want to join my private community, do consider becoming a patron or signing up through YouTube. If you want to support the channel by wearing some merch, just like the shirt I'm wearing right now, consider doing that in the description link as well. And lastly, you can also support the channel by using my coupon code for Athletic Greens in the description, which is a supplement I've been using for years, and I take it every single morning. So anyway, I'll let you go. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.